Hello everyone, Ember here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one I'm going to be taking a look at the best single prize Pokemon for balancing a format, or an event, or a challenge, I guess. So the basics are that most single prize Pokemon sadly cannot coexist due to the power creep over the years. This is just of course due to HP changes in Rulebox Pokemon, and overall damage output in single prize Pokemon. So it just means that some decks, e.g. Cloth or Dondozo, are just going to be straight up better than 90% of the rest of them. Lost Zone is, of course, a better example of that. Even if you remove Sableye from the equation, being able to use Cramorant as early as turn 1 going second is, of course, a lot better than, most other single prize decks. However, many players still want a single prize format on live for good reason. It's interesting, it can be very creative, and there's just a lot of single prize Pokemon that unfortunately don't really get used in other formats. And as a result, I think a good single prize format should, or I guess single prize challenge or event, should promote creativity and keep the monsters at bay. So what I'd like to do is take a look at some low powered, medium powered, and high powered examples of single prize Pokemon, and then maybe we can work out a way to kind of take the best of each of them and try and find a way to turn that into a balanced format. Now, this is of course very hypothetical, but hopefully it all kind of makes sense by the end of the video. But yeah, so we've got some draw engines here, which are the low powered ones. We see stuff like Draw 1 quite frequently on stuff like Widear and Sourcebug. I'm not going to talk about all of these cards, but as you'll notice, like the most powerful effects are usually reserved for Stage 2 Pokemon. So if you want to set up a good draw engine, then you would have to actually play stuff like Red Candy. I do sometimes think that low-powered draw engines are good in both high-powered settings and medium-powered settings, really, because if you restrict it a bit too much, then you run the risk of it being very, very luck-based in how players set up, and you don't really want that. You do want there to be some level of balance between players, not just force everyone to play Beautyfly, basically, in every deck, but, it depends what you're going for and what other Pokemon are in your event. So yeah, draw engines, a bit harder to work with, but it's just based on the fact that, they can be a bit flippant and inconsistent. But the best draw engines for high powered, I think these ones are a little bit more obvious, I should say. Stuff like Bibarel, Curlia, Gallade, even, I would say. Dodrio is a bit of a funny one. I know that some people wouldn't put Dodrio here, but I personally think Dodrio should be classed as a high powered draw engine, simply because of Ballistic Beak is a very efficient attack for a single color Senji. So not only do you have a good single prize draw engine, but you also have a good single prize attacker. So, Dodrio could be very powerful. Also, stuff like Revroom, just very strong. Hisuian Samurott, you could argue against as well, because it's just a discard a card, draw 3. But Dark Mastery is also a very efficient attack, so, kind of felt like it needed to be part of the high power draw engines. Next up, though, is we have Energy Acceleration. So high powered, it's pretty obvious. It's stuff like Xatu, Baxcalibur, and Archeops. Now, I know Baxcalibur is a bit of a weird one, because even when the formats have been fairly low powered, there's often been stuff like Super Cold, or I forget what Blastoise's main ability is called, like Deluge or something. But yeah, there has been like massive ways of accelerating water energy in the past. So to be fair, I think Baxcalibur is a pretty solid addition for medium or high powered, but maybe not low powered. There's stuff like Quaxalava for low powered, as well as Wigglytuff, Gargankel, Vileplume. Honestly, even Archeops could be classed as low powered because of how annoying fossils are to get into play most of the time without stuff like Lugia. So I could definitely see the argument for Archeops being in high powered, or low powered rather. But either way, what I would say about energy acceleration is it's only as good as what you're powering up. So if your Pokemon are pretty weak, then it shouldn't really matter too much if your energy acceleration is pretty strong. But obviously just be careful with stuff like Xatu, because it's also a draw engine and a way of ramping energy. But yeah, so low powered attackers, typically what you'll see with low powered Pokemon in general is that they're never really one at curing each other. That's like a rule of thumb I try to use with low powered attackers, like Stage 2s, for example. I took a bunch of them from the set XY Evolutions because most of the Pokemon in that set are pretty weak anyways. But, just look at some modern Stage 2s as well, like this Orbital that was fairly recent. There was like this Vileplume as well, which was not too long ago. I think that was Lost Origin, that Vileplume. So, basically a lot of these Stage 2s are just not one at killing each other. If they are, then it's kind of rare and it's for fringe requirements. So, like, Nidoking had Tail Swing, but it's like nothing crazy, of course. There is still some kind of powerful effects in here, like Wugtrio can find 3 tool cards, Slowbro can essentially heal one of your Pokemon by moving damage to itself, so there is powerful options within low powered, but they're obviously just significantly more balanced, well rounded. And I do think low powered Pokemon are just a lot easier to work with because of that, because they're not just one at killing each other, and it's a bit more methodical basically. It's a slower pace of the game, I should say. But yeah, low powered I think are the most interesting. Mid powered I think are a bit more awkward to work with because you run the risk of there being one mid powered one, which is just slightly more overtuned than the other ones. So you end up pushing into high powered more often than not. But still, mid powered attackers can be fun to work with. They're also really good with just any kind of draw engine or energy acceleration. So they do make for really fun decks and really fun attackers. But as I said before, these can be little bit risky to work with. Stuff like Omnistar, for example, could be very, very strong. Machamp, I think, is probably a better example of a card that could even fit into low powered. Gengar is a bit more flippant, but still could be very potent. But yeah, mid powered kind of harder to work with and often crosses over with high powered a lot, which is basically just the best single prizes that we have right now. I've not included the most obvious ones like Cramorant and Cloth, but we do have stuff like Nidoking, Dondozo, Palaffin's another really big one, Scizor because of how efficient it is, and then Titan mainly because of reverse energy. And then, you could pair up Titan with Baxcalibur, depending on what energy acceleration you're playing. There's also like some other really good examples. Tranitar is like probably one of the most powerful stage 2 single prize cards ever printed. It's not good enough for standard, but in a single prize format, I definitely think it would be very, very strong. Stuff like Mismagius, of course, like any sort of spread decks really are just very, very potent within single prize formats because obviously the HP is significantly lower. So unless you start playing ways to protect the bench or modify HP, then stuff like Mismagius becomes a large threat. So yeah, just also kind of bear that in mind, I guess. Just some other low powered options because I think low powered is worth focusing on. Like if I was to ever do like a single price format again, I guess. I mean, I'm not really planning on doing one anytime soon, but either way, if I was to do a low powered format, I would look at low powered single price Pokemon because they're just a lot easier to work with. And, I'll probably give more examples of low powered Pokemon in the future, but these were just a few that I thought, worth highlighting, basically. And is there anything else? No, that's it really. Thanks for watching. I didn't realize that was the end of the video, but yeah, thank you for watching. Here's some Pokemon breaks and ancient traits as well. So I do think there's a lot of potential for single prize Pokemon and a single prize format on TCG Live. But at the end of the day, it's just going to be quite difficult to balance one out. And, I'm pretty curious as to see what other people can come up with. So yeah, let me know what you think down below. Is there something you'd like to see done for more Pokemon? As in, would you like to see sets or set types? But yeah, it's been Power, and thank you for watching.